All right, Mr. Aguirre, we're ready.
Well, I don't have a gavel, so we'll just go ahead and start. Call the meeting to order at...
Turn on your microphone.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yes,
Yep,
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you too.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order, the March 23rd, 2020. Call it to order at 6:30. We're actually streaming, everyone is. There should be a live stream from the district office also for everyone who's watching. I guess we can all go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The United States
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is recommended the governing board approve the regular agenda form and consent agenda consistent with board policy BEDB and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent. If I could have a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
And a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Show that approved unanimously. Administrative reports. Food services, Mrs. Basinger.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the governing board. I am going to pull up my presentation for you to preview that. And actually, our presentation, I have Cindy Cabanilla here with me, and together we are going to be presenting this information to you. And if you could give me a head nod to let me know that you can see my screen, I would appreciate it. Perfect, thank you. So, Mr. President, members of the governing board, tonight we are presenting an update on the food service program, specifically our meal service during the school closure. Additionally, we'll be presenting information related to the packaging of leftovers for our students. And I'm going to have a little bit of a delay here in trying to get my slide to go. Let's see if I can make. Come on. There we go. Sorry, my stop sharing was right over my arrow, and so it wouldn't let me change slides. I'm so sorry. Currently, the district is providing meals on a grab-and-go basis during the school closure. We're providing those meals at Freedom Elementary, Las Brisas Academy, and Rainbow Valley. We are serving breakfast and lunch at the same time between 10 and 11:30. So families will only have to make one trip. We're offering breakfast and lunch at no cost to all children 18 and under. Additionally, we received the go-ahead from ADE to deliver at additional locations via bus. And so starting Wednesday, March 25th, our transportation and food departments will be delivering meals to various bus stops throughout the district. We will be delivering to 6 different stops in Rainbow Valley, 3 different stops in the Freedom Liberty area, and 3 additional stops in the Liberty Las Brisas area. And we are pleased to note that as of today, the meals served has increased to over 900. Over 900 meals. And so we're very excited to see that. We've seen it progressively increase since we started serving last week. We're hoping to see that improve as more families become aware and we expand to the bus locations. And I'll pause for a second. Is there any questions related to that? If not, we'll go ahead and move into next slide. Review of packaging leftovers for families in need. An interest was expressed by the governing board to research the packaging of leftovers for our students and families in need. And as we started researching this, we found there were many things to look at and to consider. For example, the one option would be to package only leftovers to distribute to students. This would be without any supplemental foods to make a complete meal. Another example that we looked at would be an option if the district supplemented our leftovers to package and provide full meals. So we wanted to start, and I'm going to get this clicking going here. We wanted to start by communicating what constitutes a nutritional meal. So a nutritional meal includes one serving each of a protein, a grain, a vegetable, a fruit, and milk. At our district, meals are funded from both local funds and federal funds. Local funds, would be monies received from our students in the form of our paid lunches, and federal funds would be in the form of reimbursements for the number of meals served and in the form of commodities. Getting there. Wait. I am so sorry. There we go. There are strict regulations on the food service program due to the program being operated using federal funds. The district chooses to operate under the federal guidelines in order to make the program self-sustainable and to receive the benefits of the federal programs, such as commodities. By keeping the program self-sustainable, it doesn't require supplements from the Maintenance and Operations Fund, thereby allowing those monies to be used in other instructional areas. Additionally, by operating under the federal guidelines, we were able to keep the meal costs affordable for our families. And so I'm going to let Cindy talk. I'm sorry.
Just kind of going to go over what Liberty has as overage. So our goal is zero waste in our kitchens. The staff does very well with batch cooking. So we kind of cook as we go, as our groups are coming in. One, to maintain quality, and the reason to make sure we don't have those excess leftovers at the end of the day. When thinking about packaging leftovers, we ask questions as to how much Liberty has. And again, the goal is to have zero. Additionally, the kitchens modify their cooking the entire 2 hours they are serving to make sure we don't have the leftovers at the end of the day. And they do very well with this. When we look at how much overage Liberty does have,
we actually did a 2-week food overage study to gather the most current overage information possible. And looking at the two-week period at the end of February, the results reflected that we have approximately 124 meals left over per day. Federal restrictions have a threshold of a total of $500 per year eligible for donating as it relates to the commodities. And based on those federal restrictions, we then looked at how much of those meals could actually be donated. We determined that 70% of the meals were made with commodities. 30% of those leftover meals could be used for donating. To break that down further, we looked at just what was available within that 30%.
Attached, you'll see a copy of a sample menu, basically a week's worth of what we took to kind of see what would consist of the commodities and the purchased items for a week. So for Monday, the 24th, for example, the breakfast was bagel with cream cheese. Neither one of those two items were commodities, so whatever would be left over would be something that we could donate. When looking at lunch that day, we had popcorn chicken with a roll. The popcorn chicken is a commodity food, so the item that we would have left over to donate would be that roll. When looking at the second entree that day, we had cheesy nachos. The cheese sauce is a homemade sauce made with commodity cheese. So the item that we would pull and be able to have as a donated item would be just the chips. We have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich as a third entree that day. When looking at the sandwich as a whole, the commodities in that peanut butter and jelly would be the peanut butter. So technically, we wouldn't have anything to give because it's already been put together and put out on the line, with the peanut butter being the commodities. Our daily hot vegetable is usually a commodity as well. So when we look at the second day, which was the 25th, we had cinnamon French toast. That is an item that we could possibly donate if there was leftovers. And then for lunch, we had a chicken tamale, which is not a commodity. That would be an item we could donate. And then looking at the grilled cheese, which was a second entree, the cheese would be commodities and the bread would be a purchased item. The third item that day would be a chef salad. When looking at the chef salad, all the items that consist, including the fresh lettuce, the vegetables, the turkey, and the ham, are all commodity items. The only part of that meal would be, again, the roll that would not be a commodity. And so far, we listed on all the days as we go down which meals consist of commodities and which are purchased. The pattern shows that most of our meals do consist, like Kelly said, at least 70% of commodity items.
So as we look at the next slide, and an example of what we would have eligible for donating on February 24th of that menu, the non-commodity leftover would be 41 servings of chips from the. On February 25th, the non-commodity leftover would be, or could be 108 tamales. On February 26th, the non-commodity leftover would be 5 honey buns, 80 hamburger buns, and 60 servings of tater tots. Just to give you an idea as you start to piece together the items that we could actually donate. So we next looked at what it would require in the form of equipment to be able to package the foods for leftovers. The equipment would be needed for both option 1 and option 2. That would be the individual leftover items or the complete meals. In order to properly freeze the foods to be distributed, the foods have to be cooled and frozen at a certain temperature and in a certain amount of time. The approximate cost for a flash freezer would be $10,000 per unit. We estimate that it would require that flash freezer to accommodate that appropriate freezing. We also estimated that we would need 1 insulated bag per child, and that would be approximately $15 per bag. And we would need meal containers for 8 per child. The average, when we looked at the average cost of containers, it was $16.99 for a 20-pack. So looking at option 2, thinking in terms of the food costs, I'm missing a slide here. We have an estimated, let me jump back here just really quickly because I think I did. I'm sorry. I knew I skipped a slide here. So thinking in terms of the labor costs would be for both option 1 and option 2. We are expecting a certain volume of volunteers to assist with the process, but in the instances that we would have no volunteers available, we would need to add labor costs. This would be needed again for both option 1 and option 2. Additionally, in addition to costs of just putting the items together, identification and communicating with students and families with the health aides assistance, there would be additional costs for monitoring controlled temperatures that are required for freezing and maintaining temperature logs, and that would be per the Department of Health regulations. There's food package preparation, food label preparation, bagging for distribution. We estimated that the labor costs for every 100 students to provide an 8-meal weekend package would be $960. Looking at food costs alone, if we went with option 2, because as you saw, we would have minimal leftovers to make and supplement to make complete meals, we estimated that it would be $1.35 per meal that would need to be added to make the leftovers a complete meal. The cost when we added that up over 100 students for, again, a weekend 8-meal package was $1,080, and the total annual cost associated with that for 100 students would be $7,776. We then looked at how other schools were operating similar programs. And so looking at the other school districts, what we determined was they have a higher free and reduced population, which allows for more revenue. They also have just a higher volume in general, being larger school districts, which actually equaled more leftovers. There's the Serve Breakfast in the Classroom program, and that in and of itself offered additional leftovers. Additionally, the districts had grant funds to cover those additional costs. So just in summary, if we're looking at option one, there would not be enough leftover food to make a complete meal. And there would be minimal food donate, and there are no funding to cover the cost for the labor to package those meals. In summary for option two, with the small amount of leftovers, we would have to supplement with additional food to make a complete meal, and that cost would have to be considered. Currently, per the Auditor General annual report, our food service program is operating comparable to our peer districts in per meal and overall program. Any program shifts could shift that efficiency from comparable to high or very high. And with that, we would answer any questions that you might have.
So one question that I do have is, with the other districts, did we look into any of the grants that they were getting to see if that is a possibility for Liberty to help us out with something like this?
So yes, we did. Well, we looked into the grant that the other school district was using, actually is no longer available. And so they were trying to figure out how they were going to continue to operate without those grant monies.
So if I'm reading this right, what's your best guess as far as total annual cost? Because I see basically a $10,000 big purchase for a freezer. What would kind of be your guys' high-end estimate of what something like this would cost on an annual basis to make meals complete?
So you're talking option two?
Yeah. Are we talking 20,000, 25,000?
Probably $20,000 to $25,000, and that's really a rough estimate. Just not knowing exactly how much participation and how much labor would be involved.
Could I use 30,000 as the high number?
Possibly higher, just with the labor.
Okay. The reason why I ask is I'm going to look into this a little bit more. I mean, this wasn't when I asked you all to look into this, it wasn't looking bad about the efficiency, because I know you guys do a great job as far as efficiency and the way that the meals are prepped and everything. It was just a thing knowing that I know that there's kids in our district that when they go, at school, that's the only meals that they get. So it's just a thing, kind of a thing for me to know that we're doing everything that we can. And the reason why I asked about the total cost is I think that there's entities out there that are willing to help. I just don't know if they've been reached out to yet. So that's kind of why I was wondering about the other school districts in the grants. And like you says, that the those grants are no longer available. So does anyone else have any questions?
I have a couple thoughts on it. As I was thinking about this, I'm kind of interested to know what age groups the kids would be in that would be receiving these. And my thought with that is, if it's a younger child, I'd kind of be interested to know why they're not eating, not to investigate the parents so much, but to make sure that the meals are appropriate for them to prepare. And so I don't know if it's a younger child, if they know how to use a microwave. I'm assuming these meals would be microwaved to heat back up.
The meals would be to put in a microwave, and we would have to do labeling to go with each meal to make sure that all that is included for the child. Just because we don't know the age group, it wouldn't be a specific age group. The need would have to be identified either by a social worker or a school aide, nurse aide that would be able to help. So it would be tough to say a certain age group.
Sure. And so I'm just thinking out loud that I think that would be really helpful if we knew the age groups and roughly how many kids would participate in this. But I also wonder if it might be even more efficient to partner with or start our own food bank with non-perishable foods and give those out rather than, and I don't know, I'm just talking out loud for, to be most efficient with our resources. But those two things were just on the top of my head about age group, and then maybe partnering with or starting our own food bank for those kids.
So I would add that if you're looking at the leftover food that we have, so the example of on 224 with 41 servings across the district of chips that was left over on that day. So to bring that up to the level of a meal, that requires quite a bit of additional food to be added in order to make that a meal. Additionally, those 41 servings are spread out over 6 schools. So when you look at what is the actual overage per school, it's very, very minimal of what we're looking at. So I think, some of the ideas around, excuse me, Cindy, could you speak a little bit to where's our opportunity to partner with some of the services or 501c3s that are in our community that could utilize some of this food for the work that they do? So what's, as little as possible is going to waste, but it's still helping needy families.
Of course. So most of the food banks do accept donations, but not something that's already been cooked and prepared. So typically if we have a half a loaf of bread left over, that half a loaf of bread is going to be used for the next day's grilled cheese or turkey and ham sandwich. So we're not tossing it. Once they are cooked and it's been prepared, then we do toss those leftovers. Kelly and I kind of talked about getting together with one of the food banks to see if they could give us some of their dry goods that the kids could take in those bags for the weekend, like a backpack. But it would be items like Jamie said, kind of, they're not, the kids don't have to put in the microwave. They don't have to cook it. So we're talking about dry pasta, canned goods, that type of stuff.
So, as a board, what would you like to see us do with this? Is this information you're looking for? Do you want us to take some next steps?
So for me, this is kind of the things that I wanted to see. I wanted to see if it's feasible. And what I'm seeing is that it's possibly feasible. The one thing that I think is important, because it was actually going to be the next question that I asked and that Jamie asked, was, is there any way to reach out to, like you said, either the principals, social workers, or the nurse aides, to identify how many units, how many children would utilize these units? And I think that would really tell us, how we want to proceed forward, or if it's even feasible to be able to proceed forward. Because when I first brought this up, like I says, it was, this is for the most needy families in our district. And when I say families, the most needy children, right? That's what's important to me. So if we could look into that, I don't know, do any of the other board members have any other comments?
Mark, the other thing is, are we creating an equity in the home? Are there smaller children that need food? Are there older children that need food? So, and how do we address that? So it's not just the kids that attend our schools. I think it's if you have one child in the family that's in need, you probably have several children in the family in need. And I just would hate to create some sort of inequity in the home. That's my only thought. I mean, I'm all about, I mean, I would feed every kid in the neighborhood. That's just who I am. But we also need to have that holistic view of the family.
Do you know if the grant you were speaking with is still the United Way grant? Because I believe when I was working with my old school district, that's the grant or the program that they went through. I'm just wondering what other programs that we could possibly reach out to. Do you have any other names, or would that be something we need to look into?
So Sun Valley, United Way Sun Valley is one of the groups that does donate a lot. They've actually donated to Liberty $24,000 to change our breakfast model, which we did, and it worked out very well. We did reach out to them again because they were the ones helping out other districts with the labor piece of these meals. And what they shared is that they didn't see that it was making a big impact, so they were not able to keep supporting the labor for those districts. I can look into other, but they're one of the biggest ones right now that do support the school districts.
I do remember that being a problem with the school district I worked with. We had, I will say, on the liability side, we had things left in backpacks and then kids eating like rotten mozzarella sticks and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure how to alleviate those things, but I do know that those are some problems that arose. So maybe the food choices would need to be obviously non-perishables, because we did have some issues like that.
Thank you.
So I think the other thing to just understand is, are we looking to direction to find a way to feed hungry children? And is that the main purpose, or is the main purpose to utilize our excess, food, and then the cost containment? So if you're interested in us looking into anything that we, our peers can support us with, anything we find federally for grant opportunities, to see if we've got something to cover that, or is the board interested in us looking at other models to cover the costs of the program?
So I think it would be, for both. I mean, if there's a way to do this, then I don't see why we shouldn't do this. As far as the funding, and I understand that the funding part of it is kind of where our hang up is. I mean, I appreciate the presentation. I just wanted to see from a high elevation of what something like that would look like. And I appreciate that you guys presented it. I didn't realize that there are grants and things like that the other school districts were getting. I had no idea, you know, how they were able to do it. If we have a way to reach out and see if there are any entities that can help, you know, with the cost, and if the meals are there that are left over, and if we're able to identify the children, that I really think that it's something that's, you know, that's worthwhile.
All right, thank you. I think that provides us with some information, and we'll see what we can gather from here of any funding opportunities that could support covering those costs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Basinger. Item number 2, Educational Services Mid-Year Report, Mrs. Camp.
Good evening, Governing Board President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Schuff. Can you just let me know if you can see my screen? So I am presenting tonight, first of all, preliminary information about our district's work to provide resources to our parents, as well as promote access to supplemental learning for our children. And then additionally, I will be providing a report on Educational Services Department initiatives and mid-year benchmarking results. Let me first start with our district plan for supplemental learning opportunities for students. On this slide, I'm going to talk with you about 3 weeks worth of work and planning in order to move our students to an online platform instructionally. So if I could just take a moment to talk with you about our teacher preparation week, which was last week. During that week, we were able to communicate with parents and students regarding instructional resources. And that was really an online learning opportunity of multiple choices that parents could choose from. All of our certified staff were trained last week in Google Classroom, and just a few statistics that I can share with you. On Wednesday and Thursday of last week, we had a total of 217 teachers in the district trained. And let me back that up, 217 certified staff members trained. So that included our counselors, that included our general education teachers, our special education teachers, our self-contained MAG, as well as self-contained special education teachers. We did begin to really talk with our teachers about a model for classroom collaborative Google Classrooms per grade level, kindergarten through 8th grade. And that's really the work that they have moved into this week. So if you look at week number 2, implementation of Google Classroom, this is where we're supporting our teachers with a uniform lesson model to encompass ELA, math, science, CHAMPS, which I'll have to explain to you is our art, music, and PE group, which they've extended to actually computer science, art, music, PE. Oh, I forgot about health, and then also Spanish. We did want to make sure that in our uniform lesson model that we included an interactive time of at least 30 minutes for our students to have some interaction away from screen time and up and moving in a physical activity or some type of music, art, etc. We also developed this week appropriate timeframes for instruction. So it was really important for us to think about with our teachers, do we want our students sitting in front of a screen for 6 to 7 hours of instruction like they would be experiencing in the classroom? And we know that in the classroom, they're not sitting there for 6 or 7 hours. There's lots of transition time and things like that. So our time frame that we've put together is 3 hours of instruction. And our 3 hours of instruction actually does encompass 30 minutes of that champ time, along with the additional 2.5 hours of ELA, science, social studies, and mathematics. We are working this week to also determine how we can put together hard copy materials for students who do not have access to the internet as well as technology devices. So that is still in the works logistically. Our teachers are ready to roll with that as soon as I say, let's go. But we do have some logistics that we need to take care of in regards to who will make those copies, how will we get those copies distributed, and really looking at potentially using our grab and go locations for those hard copy materials to be accessed by families. This week, we are going to launch, starting on Wednesday, Google Classroom for our students. So our commitment to our community as well as our Liberty learners is that there will be a total of 3 lessons this week: Wednesday, Thursday, and then also Friday that students can access online starting Wednesday. Next week, we'll move to 5 lessons total, and we'll also start 2 tracks with our teachers. So we have collaborative planning happening with our teacher teams because they have the Google Classroom per grade level. And then we'll also start moving into another track where a lead teacher will stay with our Google Classrooms, and another section or teacher will move into curriculum review and revision work. So those teachers will still support the collaboration of Google Classrooms as well as the assignments that are being put onto Google Classroom, but we'll start some simultaneous work with our curriculum review and revision. So when I talk about 2 tracks, that's really what I'm meaning. We're continuing with Google Classroom, and then we're also starting a track of curriculum review and revision for us to begin to plan for enhancements for next year. This is the teacher slide. Let's talk about what students and parents experienced this for the next 3 weeks. So last week was really no formal instruction. We wanted to find out if parents and students could access technology from home. So the IT department was really integral in supporting us with a survey that was sent home to anyone and everyone that had a current email address, a current email address. And we have gotten several responses back. I think the last time John and I talked, we did have about 75 to 80% of our homes being able to access internet as well as a form of technology. We our website online links for our parents as well as our students if they were able to use technology that last week being our first week. And then some of our students were already familiar with Google Classroom, and our teachers wanted the opportunity to reach out to several of their students as a check-in and just to give them some of those additional online links in their current Google Classrooms. Starting this week, we're moving to online opportunities for learning and moving to the platform of Google Classroom. Again, like I said, we are interested in our students being able to have 3 Google Classroom experiences starting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We are working on a deployment of device plan. So of the 20 to 30% of our students that don't currently have a device, IT department, John Moreno and myself are working on how can we get technology devices into the hands of those students and families that do not currently have one, and then also keep our staff safe as well with the social distancing. So what might that look like? We're going to continue to talk about the logistics of the paper materials at the grab and go locations, and very excited to launch online opportunities this week. I'm just going to do a quick shout out here. Our teachers have been phenomenal with thinking outside, literally thinking outside of their classroom and what they're used to, as well as just an all hands on deck approach. We have been celebrating their collaboration with one another and what they have been able to put together so far for our students. I'm extremely excited about Wednesday and what that's going to look like. And if you know anything about teachers, they are thoroughbred horses, if you will. They want to get out of the gate as quick as they can. And it has been extremely difficult to hold back their reins. They've been very patient with us, but they are ready to go in serving our community as well as our students. Week 3 will look like a continuation of learning opportunities. We'll move to 5 Google Classroom experiences. We'll have all of our paper materials ready to go at grab and go locations. And then, like I said, we have some very eager teachers who potentially would like to do some live activities. So initially, this just started with our champs, our special areas, AKA used to be called special areas, teachers. They are interested in doing like a 30-minute yoga session, or maybe it's a flash mob, or singing alongside with Miss Landash. So there have been several opportunities that they have presented that they'd actually like to go live with. I'm going to pause there and see if we have any questions that I can answer at this time.
Ms. Camp, this is Kathy. This may be a question more for John. I know we were going to try to do some call outs to the kids that we hadn't heard from. My question is has that already happened?
Can you guys hear me and nod? Yeah, okay. We have begun that process, and we are the school sites are assisting us with reaching out to the parents that we have not been able to get a hold of.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I move on to our Ed Services report? Okay. I'm going to try to split my screen just a little bit so I can still see you all as I'm presenting. And that might not work, so that's okay. As I continue with the second part of my presentation tonight, this will be a summary of our report for Educational Services Department initiatives and mid-year benchmarking results. I first wanted to start with our educational services goal. We believe that a highly effective teacher is the key to a child's success. Educational Services is committed to equipping all teachers and instructional leaders to powerfully impact student achievement. We invest in our school-specific and district-wide support through meaningful assessment development, resource provision, and differentiated professional learning experiences. At the end of last year, we were able to add 2 additional positions that were approved to enhance the work of Educational Services team. These positions were the Director of School Effectiveness and also the Curriculum and Instruction Coordinator. These positions joined the existing Educational Services Coordinator and the Educational Services Specialist position. The Educational Services team developed a theory of action that would drive our work and our decision making. We believe that if Educational Services supports, whoopsie, sorry about that, let me go back. We believe that if Educational Services supports building level leadership in increasing their content knowledge and instructional leadership skills, then administrators and coaches would be able to provide teachers with more specific and actionable feedback to improve their effectiveness. And if Educational Services implements a curriculum management system of supports and professional development for teachers, then teacher effectiveness and quality of teacher working conditions would improve, and students would be guaranteed access to high expectations for learning and quality instruction that would result in increased student learning. In line with our theory of action, the Educational Services team, in collaboration with our principals and our instructional coaches, we used previous AZ Merit and benchmark data to determine the content focus areas that needed additional support. Those determined areas were in grades K2, mathematical problems 3-5, and writing in all grade levels. Within each of these focus areas, we worked on 3-year goals for each focus area. And what you will see here is that our 3-year goals have been established for leaders, which encompass our principals, assistant principals, and instructional coaches, also teachers, as well as students. So it was important that the work of Educational Services directors and coordinators, that they began with the campus leaders, then also a direct support to teachers, and even working side by side with students at the student level. As I present each of the focus areas for the 3-year goals, you'll see this same format, and then I'll dig into each area for year 1. So starting with reading foundations in K2, this was really a year that we focused on a couple of things: orthographic mapping with sound and word work time, also routines to engage our sound and word work, and then increasing the use and the identification of high frequency words for our K2 students. You'll see a similar layout here for math problem solving. Again, within math problem solving, focusing on what our leaders would be able to do, our teachers, as well as our students in a year 1, 2, and 3 progression. And in year 1 for our math problem solving, we really focused on launching math tasks with our students and teachers, providing weekly opportunities for problem solving, and providing opportunities for the use of manipulatives in moving from concrete to abstract thinking. And finally, in the area of writing, again, a progression from year 1 to 2 to 3. And this focus area was kindergarten through 8th grade. So this was our biggie this year. Our year 1 really focused on training in all of the writing genres, as well as the writing process, daily instruction in writing throughout the school year, and then engaging in writing from text from informal as well as opinion. With the goals and the plans established with Educational Services team, we began to work on products and processes to support our teachers in establishing a guaranteed and viable curriculum. I'm just showing you a comparison of what we were able to do last year in comparison to this year particularly with products. So as you can see, last year we did have curriculum resources, and based upon the curriculum audit, we were working towards a written, taught, and tested curriculum. So in 1920 so far, we've been able to maintain our curriculum resources. We've also been able to develop and establish our phase 1 of curriculum maps in ELA, math, science, and social studies. We've worked hand in hand with our district level coordinators and director with teachers to establish and create trimester 1 and 2 assessments that are aligned to essential standards of the trimester. Those are in grades 2 through 8 for ELA, and then also 3 through 8 for math. With support services, additional positions, we were also able to add, we were also able to allow for a much more differentiated service to teachers and professional learning opportunities. So in 2018 and 19, you can see our professional development services and supports that we were able to provide. And in 2019-20 to current, this is what we have been able to provide our teachers, as well as our leaders, our instructional coaches, a very thorough and differentiated professional development plan this year. However, we know that professional development doesn't stop with in-person training sessions. It is job embedded. The educational services coordinators have been strategic about lowering the level of implementation anxiety that many teachers experience when they're trying something new. Educational services coordinators have modeled with teachers in their classrooms. They've planned side by side with them in professional learning communities, and they've provided our K2 and our 3-8 teachers feedback to support their risk-taking and further implementation in the areas of reading foundation and mathematical problem solving. So what do the results show? So I'm going to start first with writing. This is our writing implementation district-wide. Initially, 25 to 33% of our teachers were implementing writing on a daily basis at the beginning of the school year. And from that initial check on writing implementation, we were able to gather information for professional development design, content instruction in writing process, content instruction in regards to different writing genres, and building understanding of the reciprocal process between reading and writing. So research shows us that reading interventions and impacts show that we can extend our writing to allow for greater reading comprehension gains than just reading a text, as well as reading and rereading it, reading and studying it, reading and discussing it, or receiving just flat out reading instruction. So as you can tell, our current writing implementation has definitely increased. Our initial implementation was measured by the number of the number of teachers writing on a daily basis. And of those teachers, the number of student samples or student work samples that were the correct genre, if you will. We've seen an increase in writing daily, and our student work is now aligned to the genre that's being taught. This is a grade level view of our K3 teachers in regards to reading foundations. So what we wanted to show you here with our results for reading foundations, instead of just an overall Dibbles and or Acadience composite score, we really wanted to share apples to apples. So if you'll look at kindergarten to start with, this first bar actually represents 13 teachers or classes that are continuing in the same assignment as last year. So of our 13 continuing classroom teachers in kindergarten, 8 had an increase in growth, 3 were stagnant, and 2 decreased. And if we look at first grade, we had 10 teachers continuing in the same assignment. And of them, 5 had an increase in growth, 1 was stagnant, and 4 decreased. And in second grade, we had 12 teachers continuing in the same assignment, and of them, 3 had an increase in 3 had increased in growth, 1 was stagnant, and 8 decreased. And finally, in third grade, 12 teachers continuing in the same assignment, and of them, 9 showing growth, 0 stagnant, and 3 decreasing. Continuing with our academic results of Acadience, this is a site view. So this looks at the changes in growth by site. And if we're starting first with Estrella, again, the teachers that stayed in their assignment continuing from last year. So again, I'm trying to show apples to apples here. So of Estrella's 6 K3 continuing teachers, 4 had an increase in growth, while 1 was stagnant and 1 had a decrease. Freedom, 10 teachers remaining, 7 increase and 3 decrease. Las Brisas, 8 teachers continuing, 6 with an increase and 2 with a decrease. Liberty had 5 teachers continuing, 1 with an increase and 4 with a decrease. Rainbow Valley had 9 teachers continuing in their same teaching position, 4 with an increase, 1 stagnant, and 4 decrease. And then West Star had also 9 teachers continuing, 3 with an increase, 2 stagnant, and 4 decrease. We also wanted to show you just an overall. So this is a K3 band view. It represents 47 classroom teachers, again, that are comparing last year to this year. 47 of them stayed within their positions. Of these 47 represent classrooms, more than half of the teachers increased their percentage of kids mid-year growth, with 30% having at least a 10% more increase. And then I also wanted to show you a comparison of our ELA and math AZ merit from last year to our trimester 1 and trimester 2 benchmark assessments of Illuminate this year. So I just want to be very, careful to say this is not cohort data. This is actually how did our third grade students perform last year on AZ merit, and how are they performing this year on Illuminate trimester 1 and trimester 2. The reason for that comparison is that our Illuminate data is actually, our cut scores from our Illuminate data is actually set to give us a better understanding of how students would perform on AZ merit. So when we look at our Illuminate data, we're really saying, you know, wow, this many students are predicted, if you will, to pass our AZ merit, either at the proficient or at the highly proficient level. So as you're looking at this data, one thing I just want to summarize for you is that even though we know that it takes change and data up to three to 5 years to actually show a change, our data is trending up, and it's showing that 75% of our grade levels are actually trending in the positive direction. Let me further say that I only color coded this with a green, meaning it is higher than the AZ merit scores of last year, or a yellow representing that it's lower than. And finally, in summary, as you've heard tonight, our Educational Services Department has a concentrated system of support. We want to ensure that we are not pouring into the funnel and hoping that our support trickles down to the bottom. We're intentionally partnering and supporting at every level. I also see this as a fluid model that can go both ways in moving also in and out of levels as needed in order to monitor and adjust the support of educational services. I am very proud of our department's impact, their responsiveness to leader and teacher need, and the intentional work that we have done so far. Are there any questions?
I was just curious, what is the passing score on the AZ Merit?
So the passing score changes each year, which is set by our Department of Ed, and it depends. So I'm going to pull this back up, Jamie. So if I was looking at this slide, let me see if I can use my cursor here. So if I was looking at this slide, this is how our students performed, and this is the percentage of passing in third grade on AZ Merit last year. So all of these scores, if I scroll down in bold, that was our current grade level percent passing in the Liberty Elementary School District. This side representing ELA, and then this side representing math. Does that answer your question?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Natasha, it's Kathy.
Yes.
Do you feel that some of our teachers are, well, obviously, I think we've upped the stakes a little bit on them. And the coaches, I know, are asking for information to be filled out. Have we done some root cause analysis of why we think teachers have decreased? Or is this the first time we really measured that and we don't have historical where we saw decreases over time? Or is this a first year for them? I'm more of what root causes are we finding?
Yeah, so I would say in speaking to that, we're looking at have the three areas that we are focusing on, which are reading foundations, mathematical problem solving, and writing. Are we seeing trends upward in those three areas based upon the training that our teachers have received, the implementation that they have provided within the classroom, and then do we have actually a form of data to show us that? So this being our first year of being very strategic about these three areas, Kathy, I would say that this is our baseline data. So what we would be showing from here is, I always want it to be trending up, but if it wasn't trending up, then I feel like we could be digging into root cause analysis as to why.
So this is the foundation of where I've been looking for some return on an investment. We decided to give 2 more hours of professional development on Wednesdays. We're getting kids out of school earlier. So this is really our baseline data to determine what's the return on investment of those decisions. Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
And the results that she has shared with you are all the standards that are tested for English language arts, or all the standards that are tested at Acadians that are a K2 level. And our professional learning and our focus has been a narrower set of those. And at this time, we're still working with our teachers to develop some more formative assessments that help us to really study writing mid-year, where that we don't have an ability to assess writing at this time other than just once a year and only with our 3rd through 8th grade children. So as we get better at that will help the teachers refine their practice too, as they are building lessons towards assessments that they themselves are giving in the classroom on a week-to-week basis.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Camp.
Thank you.
Item number 3 on the agenda, Governing Board report. Does anyone have anything to report on?
I just want to mention that ASBA is having weekly webinars, and I attended last weekend's. It's just more of a where are we with what the president actions in schools. And so there's another one coming up on Wednesday, I believe between 10 and 11 or 11 and 12. I have to double check. But even if you register, if you can't make it, you can go back and listen to it. So I wanted to let the other board members know that just because if you aren't available during that time, as long as you register for it, then you get the recording of it. So you can go back and listen to the recording. And then I want to say good job to all of the staff members that have been reading online and putting stuff out on social media. I know I've heard a lot of parents over the social media Facebook pages complimenting and appreciating that. So I know that they're not on, but just good job on their part.
Anyone else? Okay, item number 4, consent agenda. Does anyone have anything that they want pulled? Okay, if I could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Go ahead, Jamie.
I'll motion to accept the agenda as is.
In a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Show to approve unanimously. General business, item number 1, Ms. Basinger.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the governing board. With this item, the district is hereby requesting approval of the facility use fee schedule for the upcoming fiscal year 2020-2021. The fee schedule must be approved annually. At this time, there are no changes being recommended to the fee schedule. Fees, as a reminder, fees charged are not for the district to make a profit, but only to recoup the cost derived from the utilization of the facilities. The fees that we are currently charging are comparable to other districts. Included with the fee schedule in the governing board packet was an updated facility use handbook. Major highlights of the updates included revisions to align the district handbook with updates from the trust liability insurance recommended handbook, an updated fee schedule reflecting the fiscal year 2021, no changes again to the fees, providing additional information and guidance related to in-kind donations received in lieu of facility use fees, and providing updated information related to the purchase of the required liability insurance. And if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
The only question that I had was the entities that are using our facilities now, they've gone over this and that they understand what everything means, and that this is the way that we're going to be moving forward from here on out.
This is for the fiscal year 2021. We've met with one individual briefly, not necessarily to discuss in depth the handbook, but to talk about in-kind fees for next year and how that might work. But beyond that, we have that handbook posted out on the district. We'll have it. We currently have it posted, and we'll post the new one out on the district website. And then as the facility use requests are coming in, we'll talk to them about those requirements and visit with them on that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Basinger?
Yes.
In the areas that we actually, I think it's labor, sometimes it's security or janitor services, is our recent fee increase still going to be able to be covered by those amounts?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
I had a question, pulling it back up. On page 5, The sixth line from the bottom says any electrical tools, appliances, or extension cords used by the occupant shall be in good condition. Extension cords are to be taped to the floor to avoid trip hazard. I was just wondering if there should be anything in there. Well, two questions. If there should be anything in that sentence that requires them to have the electrical tools and appliances and extension cords inspected by a qualified electrician, or are we to cover ourselves, or are we expecting them to have that stuff inspected by a professional? And then another question is appliances. Is that synonymous for electrical equipment?
So these guidelines, we actually get directly from our liability insurance carrier. And they currently do not have a recommendation to require that. The district could go above and beyond what they recommend to require that. But currently we are going off of the guidelines as provided by our liability insurance.
So Kelly, I think I wonder if Janie's asking, is this something that Kevin might be qualified to inspect, the maintenance supervisor?
That could be, we could ask him to do that, and we could ask them to provide that before they use the facilities to make sure.
I think we just need to consider what is the broad range of things that might be plugged in. It might be a light, it might be an electronic scoreboard, it might be an amplifier, and then the volume of different facility requests we have and the time of day that those are utilized are typically on our off times when we are not, even open. So they're coming in on Saturdays and Sundays. They're coming on afternoons or evenings after, after the office staff may have closed. So my hesitation would be, how would Kevin be able to verify, the sheer range of things? It might be a device they plug in to charge their phone. So there's just a really broad range of what electrical means. But if they were to say something that has in the agreement something over a certain number of amps or something that would let us know that that's a kind of a heavier pull, but even a small device could have a short in it. So those are questions I have. So any further thought about what that might be?
Was that a question for everyone, Lori? I'm sorry, Dr. Shaw.
It certainly could be. And that's something we could also put back to the trust to ask them if they have concern about that. Is there any recommendation, in terms of a liability that we should be having those reviewed in some way? That's a question we could certainly put back to the trust for some advisement on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't contend with a lawyer or the way an insurance would put something. But to me, when I was reading that, good condition is a very broad term. So good condition to someone who doesn't know any better could be a hazard. And that's why I bring it up. And then same thing with appliance. When I think appliance, I think of cooking equipment only. And so those are just the two things that I thought of, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Wouldn't this be covered, Dr. Schuff, under the entity's liability insurance? If they weren't using good condition appliances or extension cords and something happened, a fire happens and there's damage, wouldn't that be covered by that individual's liability insurance?
I would, Lori, if I could I would expect that it would be, that's the reason we require that, in order to make sure that the district is protected from that facility usage in general. I think to Lori's point, we could take that back to the trust to ask them for advisement on what they might recommend, if anything about that.
Okay, yep.
The only other point I want to make is we might inspect it and 3 weeks later it gets frayed. So what are we adding value to those inspections, or are we doing some non-essential value? I mean, maybe it's necessary, but it sounds like since this is coming from the trust, it may not be, because it's fine today, frays in 6 months. So I just don't want to add work to Kevin or whomever and cost potentially when it may not be value added labor.
Thank you, but we definitely appreciate you thinking just to protect the district overall. So all the ideas are helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, if I could get a motion to approve the facility use agreement and fee schedule for fiscal year 2020 and 2021.
I make a motion to approve the facility usage handbook as presented.
Can I get a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Show that it approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 2, discussion consideration to approve the award of the RFP 20-03-20. Ms. Basinger.
Hi, Mr. President and members of the governing board. I will add that John Moreno will be assisting with information with regards to this. But with this item, the district hereby requests approval from the governing board to award the request for proposal 20-03-20 for wide area network services to Cox pending the approval of the finalized contract for services by the district attorney. Typically, the district uses the state cooperative contract for the wide area network services. And unfortunately, they did not put out their renewal in time for the district to use that for our E-rate application. So in January, the district asked the governing board to approve the issuance of the request for proposal, and the district issued the request for proposal on January 28th. We actually sent that out to 20 network providers and posted it on the website. We also published it in the Arizona Business Gazette. We received sealed bids at the district office from 4 companies in a timely manner. The lowest responsible bid was received from Cox Business. We are recommending to go with their proposal option B, as that was the lowest cost presented that would meet the district's needs. I would remind the board that the proposals they submitted, of those and through our E-rate application, approximately 70% of those monies will be covered. We expect to be covered under that E-rate application approval. And if anyone has any questions, both John and I would be happy to answer them.
Hearing no questions. Suzanne, if I could get a motion to approve and award the RFP on item number 2.
I ought to turn my microphone on. I make a motion to award the request for the RFP.
20-03-20.
20-03-20. Sorry, just finding it on my
That's
screen.
all right. Can we get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Show that it approved unanimously. Item number 3, discussion and consideration to approve the Arizona School Facility Board capital plan for 2020.
Mr. Aguirre?
Yes.
Mr. Aguirre. Our Secretary, Ms. Goodman, would like us to ensure that we go back and make the motion to name Cox as the winning award bid. I don't know if you see the chat pop up or not.
To motion.
Kelly,
Yes, sorry.
we'll go with, can you hold on just a second and we'll go through?
I can. Do you want me to take it down or you just want to talk to the previous item?
We'll talk to the previous item.
Okay.
So if we could, can we get a motion to approve the award to Cox for RFP number 20-03-20 for the wide area network services?
I make an motion to award Cox the request for RFP 26-03-20 for the wide area network services.
And a second, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Show that approved unanimously. Item number 3. Mrs. Basinger.
Make this work better. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the governing board. Annually, this Arizona School Facilities Board requires school districts to submit a capital plan to help determine statewide facility needs over the next 4 years or land needs within the next 10 years. That capital plan actually requires governing board approval. We submitted our FY20 capital plan as required. It's due in July, and we actually submitted our capital plan for fiscal year 2020. However, recognizing the potential for growth in the district and in order to have as much information as possible, the district had procured the services of Applied Economics to assist with forecasts for both the development and the ADM increase. And so with that most recent revised demographic study, we recognize that our growth had exceeded the original projected information that was submitted to the Arizona School Facilities Board. In light of that, we had actually submitted information to the School Facilities Board related to that, and they gave us approval to revise our capital plan and resubmit that for their review. As we look at the information that was included in the capital plan, the summary highlights of the capital plan remain relatively the same. Actually, these particular items remain the same. Liberty Elementary School District is located approximately 25 miles southwest of downtown Phoenix. Interstate 10 passes through the north end of the district. Loop 303 is under construction and it'll pass along and through the east side. And the district primarily serves the city of Goodyear and Buckeye. And I'm actually just sharing this information for new board members just so that they can see what was originally presented. And again, most of the general information is unchanged from the FY20 capital plan, but there are updates to the projected both households increases and ADM. Summary history, the district experienced modest decline between 2009 and 2012, which was primarily driven by the housing crisis. We also experienced a decline in the capture rate. That decline in that capture rate is expected to continue, but at a much slower rate. When we were with the improvement of the housing market and the economy, we are looking at potentially 9,600 new households that are expected to be created over the next 10 years. And just in light of that, those 9,600 new households, we're looking at enrollment during the same period to increase by about 1,600 new students over the next 10 years. Looking at the demographic projections moving forward, this slide is representative of the updated growth in residential development closings. Very similarly to what we presented before, housing additions are likely to increase steadily over the next 4 years. Current market conditions indicate a rise of over 1,000 units per year. Looking at the ADM projections, this is the growth in ADM. Again, related to those housing increases, ADM is likely to increase steadily over the next 4 years. We're not necessarily seeing as dramatic of a drop, but we are seeing that growth slowing as we get into the further years out. We're expecting that the district enrollment will grow about 1,600 new students through the year 28-29. This slide is just to represent the growth in residential development changes from the original report submitted in July of 2019 to the report that was brought to us by Applied Economics in January of 20. And the blue line represents the revised development information. The tan or gold line represents the previous development. And as you can see, it has a similar trending as far as the growth projections. However, it actually increases much more sharply in the more near future than it did before. When we look at the changes to our ADM projections, you'll see a similar pattern. The revised ADM information is reflected in the blue. The original is reflected in the gold or tan. And you can see there's a much higher, or at least a higher ADM projection as you look at that projected over the next 10 years. And this was the information that was presented to the Arizona School Facilities Board when we asked if they would please reconsider the growth that we are experiencing when they are looking at our approval for new school construction. And so in summary, based on this new information, we are still requesting two new school construction projects to be funded by School Facilities Board. One with an opening date of August of 2021, and one new school with a projected opening date of August 2026. As I mentioned, the School Facilities Board has agreed to allow us to resubmit this information based on the growth that we're seeing. In addition, they had made some adjustments to our square footage that they had originally had incorrect. And we are anticipating that they will review this new information. If we submit it, I'm actually gonna, when this board meeting is over, I'm actually going to be uploading this report to the School Facilities Board and notifying them that of this information. We're anticipating that they're going to review it at their April governing board meeting, and I believe that meeting is scheduled for April 1st. If they approve this, these new projects, there is the potential that they will be able to get this to the legislature with the inclination that the legislature could approve the funding as early as July of 2020. And I don't know if Dr. Shuff, if you had anything else you would like to add to that information?
No, I think that's in a nutshell. We're just excited to have the opportunity, and we're looking hopeful that it will show up in the April. It'll be tight for them to get it on, but perhaps the May board meeting if they accept our data.
As I had mentioned, the government does to approve the revised capital plan. There's also a capital plan submittal form that requires the signature of the board president. And I'll work with Lapita to work with Mr. Aguirre to get that signature.
Does anyone have any questions?
No questions. I just want to say, Ms. Basinger and Dr. Sheff, thank you for going back for us once again and calling them out nicely on the wrong information. But I don't think this is done very often where they agree to change things and relook at things. So appreciate that and all the work involved.
Thank you. We're pretty excited.
Mark, we can't hear you, or I can't hear you.
Is there any other questions? Hearing none, Yolanda, could you make a motion for item number 3, please?
Sure. I make a motion to approve the Arizona School Facility Board's revised fiscal year 2020 capital plan.
In a second.
I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Show that approved unanimously. Item
Thank-
number 4. Somebody have something? Item number 4, Mr. Nuttall, certified teacher contracts for renewal and non-renewal teachers.
Good evening, President Aguirre, governing board members. Nice to speak with you this evening. It's recommended that the governing board approve the renewal of the indicated teacher employment contracts for the 2020-2021 school year, as well as approve the non-renewal of those indicated attached therein for you for the 2019 and 20 school year. The non-renewal of those contracts that are recommended because the 2 teachers are not eligible for any type of certification through ADE moving forward, thereby will not receive an agreement for next school year. And those are indicated on that attachment on that next page for you.
Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none. Jamie, could you make a motion for item number 4, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the teacher renewal contracts and cancellation contracts.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Show that approved unanimously. Item number 5, Mr. Nuttall.
As you all know, this is the final year of the 20 by 2020 legislation. Ms. Basinger and I have worked very diligently to get the most updated and accurate information from the legislation. We feel comfortable and confident to present this next item to you this evening. And obviously, in order to continue to recruit and retain highly qualified people, especially as Ms. Basinger indicated again, the growth that we're going to have. The schedule has been updated for the 2020-2021 school year to reflect the 5% teacher compensation increase. Each of those cells that are included in the updated salary schedule for you to view have been increased by $800 per cell. A copy of that you can review as well is coming up very shortly. When the official budget is approved, we'll be able to then issue the amendments to the existing teacher contracts as we have done in the previous 5 years. But wanted to share with you the updated salary schedule for our certified teaching staff.
Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none, Kathy? Oh,
No, I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Nope, go ahead.
Real quick. I just noticed with other districts, they have a tier for doctorate. I noticed we don't. Is there plans to, or reason we don't right now have a tier for teachers with a doctorate?
I can defer to Kelly on that particular piece, and or Dr. Schuff. This has been the existing kind of going along horizontally scale all throughout since we've been here. I'm certain that there could be something added for a doctorate, and I'll defer to Kelly and or Dr. Schuff to provide that explanation historically.
Sure. This is based on the historical documents of the district. The idea of honoring that doctoral research as an incentive and for staff, that certainly I could take that back to the teacher advisory group if that's something they would support. The addition of, whether the pros and cons of that, it's probably mostly pros, and just probably very few that would be affected by it. So it'd probably be a small cost to the district to be able to support that and honor that work. So I'd be happy to take that back to the teacher advisory group, unless the board was wanting to make an adjustment this evening in some way. Jamie, you're muted. There you go.
All right. I don't see a need for an adjustment now. I was just curious, thinking about the future and the growth that was discussed earlier.
We'll be happy to do so.
Any other questions? Kathy, can you make a motion for item number 5, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the certified teacher hiring schedule for fiscal year 21.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Show that it approved unanimously. Item number 6, approve this special education teacher salary schedule for fiscal year 21. Mr. Nuttall.
Thank you. As you all are aware, last year, right about this time, in order to recruit special education teachers, we increased the years of experience salary schedule up to 15 years to be more competitive with the market out there, specifically regarding honoring years of experience. And the governing board approved this initial salary schedule last year, honoring up to 15 years. We are recommending to do the same exact thing as we did with the certified teachers regular education group, whereby $800 has been added to each cell here as well.
Any questions? Hearing none. Suzanne, can you make a motion for item number 6?
I make a motion to approve the certified teaching, the special ed certified teaching hiring schedule for the fiscal year 2021.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Show that it approved unanimously. Item number 7. Mr. Nuttall.
So I'd just like to provide you with a quick update of some of our work that we've conducted with our current principal secretaries. Tonight, what we're recommending is the approval of a few items here. Number one is the new office manager job description and the 11-month calendar that's associated with that. Ms. McNamara, I honored your request by creating a strike-through, so you'll be able to see that tonight. But just real brief overview for all of you. Our principal secretaries they run the office. We have known that for a while. They are more of a supervisory type person in front of all of the operations of the office. They really are the right-hand person to the principals in terms of ensuring that their jobs can be maximized to the maximum efficiencies possible. And like I mentioned, all of the front office operations really are run by our current principal secretaries. We've conducted several meetings over the past few months to get some feedback so that what their actual duties each and every single day, we wanted to ensure that those were accurately reflected in their job description. In addition, what we wanted to also do is we wanted to make sure that whatever job description duties that are currently presented that could be disseminated to a school secretary and/or should be the role and responsibility of the principal solely, we've had that communication as well. We've worked directly with the principals. We've worked directly with the principal secretaries through all of these activities and discussions. I've met as a group and individually with each of them on multiple occasions to discuss the actual job description first. So secondly, one of the things that we really wanted to focus on was their safety and the security of our principal secretaries. In several of our meetings, what we discovered was, and what they shared with us, is that in many cases when principals are taking vacations, primarily the last week of June, first week of July, they are at those campuses by themselves with the offices being open. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to take their those times where they're by themselves, and quite frankly, in most cases, they take those days off as well. And we wanted to create an 11-month calendar that would provide for them days off when our principals and the teachers and students are also gone. And so the attached 229-day calendar reflects that in those work days as prescribed. One of the concerns was, how do we balance the increased responsibilities and duties reflected in the job description with the reduction of days? And it was really important to us to not to negatively impact financially that group of people. And given the fact that they have an increased role and responsibility from a leadership, managerial, and supervisory role, we felt like maintaining where they're currently at, it would be a very good recommendation for us to make moving forward. And so our recommendation is that we put them onto the exempt salary schedule and be placed on that 11-month work calendar.
And this is a cost neutral action, correct?
This is a cost neutral action, yes.
Does anyone else have any questions?
No, but Mr. Dell, thank you for the strike through. I got through it about half the time, so that did not go unnoticed.
I'm always trying to improve. Thank you for the heads up.
Hearing no other questions, Kathy, can you make a motion for item number 7, please?
I make a motion to approve the office manager job description and the 11-month work calendar.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Show it approved unanimously. Item number 8, Mr. Nuttall.
District administration is recommending the approval of the support staff wage schedule for fiscal year 21 as part of the overall budget committee recommendations. As you all know, we've done a lot of work on that support staff wage schedule. The proposed support staff wage schedule for fiscal year 21 includes the minimum wage increase amounts. It also provides a step increase for all of those employees who are eligible for one. And it also provides a 2% increase across the board. What we also worked to do is decompress those entry-level positions. And we worked with our support staff advisory group. We worked with the budget committee to decompress that, as we've talked about before, with recent minimum wage increases over time. What we were experiencing were a compression of the top left corner of our support staff wage schedule. So we presented the budget committee with several different options there, and we also looked through this in our budget study session as a board group as well. And so we've created some new bands of employees that would represent that decompression and honor both the step increases that people are required to get at this point in time, as well as make sure that we're honoring the minimum wage increases as prescribed in legislation.
Any questions? Hearing none. Yolanda, you make a motion for item number 8, please.
I make a motion to approve the support staff wage schedule for fiscal 2021.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Show that approved unanimously. Item number 9. Mr. Nuttall.
District administration is recommending the approval of a new exempt staff salary schedule for FY21. Currently, LESD has several employees that are not attached to a schedule. As we've talked about a certified teacher schedule. We've talked about an administrator's schedule, support staff schedule, et cetera. And we have several employees that are not attached to a particular schedule. And so one of our goals was to create and present an exempt staff salary schedule that would capture these particular employees. And I've included those in the executive summary of the titles of the positions that we currently have of those folks that are not attached to a particular salary schedule. And it represents about a total of 16 employees. The salary schedule includes a 5% increase from each employee's current rate of pay in what you see there is bands 2 through 5. It also includes in band 1 a 2% increase for the office manager position. The reason why it was a 2% increase for the office manager and that's what's being recommended is because of the fact that during the time frame that we were doing our budget study sessions and our budget advisory group, one of those options that we just selected was to provide a 2% increase across the board for the support staff wage schedule. At the time they were on the support staff wage schedule, I've communicated with each of those employees, our office managers, and our intent moving forward would be that from here on out, any approval to the exempt staff salary schedule would be across the board, whether it be a 2.5, 3, 4, 5. We would want to honor that, but it was important to us to not create yet another budget impact that we weren't initially planning for, and this captures that.
Any questions? Hearing none. Jamie, can you make a motion for item number 9, please?
Motion to approve the exempt staff salary schedule for school year 2021.
And a second?
Second motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Show that approved unanimously. Item number 10, Mr. Nuttall.
So we're also recommending approval of the proposed administrator salary schedule. Those figures included in the proposed salary schedule include a 5% increase for all of those employees that are represented on the administrator salary schedule, based off of the board direction, once again in the budget study sessions. After review of our current employees that are placed in those categories on the administrator salary schedule, we've removed Director 2 because we do not have currently any employees in the Director 2 category. In addition, the Director 1, because it's just a Director 1, it's the only set of directors that we have. We just wanted to rename that to Director as opposed to Director 1 without a Director 2. The document that you have attached also includes the proposed amounts in each of those associated steps.
Any questions? Kathy, you make a motion for item number 10, please.
I make a motion to approve the administrator salary schedule for fiscal year 21.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Show that approved unanimously. Item number 11, finally, Mr. Nuttall.
I was just getting going, just saying. The last one I have for you all tonight is the assistant superintendent salary schedule for FY21. This agenda item is specific to the organizational structure that was approved in February. This salary schedule is modeled after the administrator salary schedule with parallel years of experience. So that's the last one I have for you all this evening.
Any questions? Hearing none, Yolanda, can you make a motion for item number 11, please?
I make a motion to approve the assistant superintendent salary schedule for fiscal year 2021.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Show that approved unanimously. Discussion and consideration to approve revised 2021 school calendar. Dr. Shuff.
Mr. Guire, members of the board typically approves our school calendar 3 years at a time. As staff looked at the calendar for the upcoming school year, we recognized that our all-day teacher in service was scheduled for the same week as parent-teacher conferences that also had several days of early release time. And just because of the loss of instructional time all in 1 week, staff recommended that we make an adjustment to that calendar. We approached a teacher advisory group. They were supportive of either of the two options that staff presented, and they felt, as we did, that the best people to decide that or to weigh in for that decision making is to talk directly to parents. So we surveyed our parents, and sure enough, 67% of them were in favor of September 4th as the new in-service day. That provides parents and families a 4-day weekend over the Labor Day weekend. And then our full day teacher in service day would be at that new time with the board's approval.
Any questions? Hearing none. Jamie, you make a motion for item number 12, please.
Motion to approve the proposed 2021 school calendar.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Show that approve unanimously. Item number 13, Dr. Schuff.
We have been looking at a section of policy on a regular basis and bringing to the board first policy readings for section G, and that has primarily to do with our staff policies. And you'll see some reasons for that, things connected to certification, as well as a number of them that increase the expectations primarily for staff for how we implement a quality curriculum management system. So those are the general reasons for the changes herein.
Any questions?
Dr. Schuff, the one question I could not read my own handwriting when we were talking over the weekend. When these are approved and the changes are made, how are we notifying the teachers that these policies have been updated? Or are we making sure maybe in one of our in-service days or professional developments, we're going over them? I think these are probably some of the critical ones they need to know have changed.
Sure. In two ways. We communicate with our staff through all staff news with information, in particular things that are of note to them that are policy changes. We would notify them there. And then if they are connected to something that we're training around at the beginning of the school year with particular changes, some of this potentially could end up in our staff handbooks, both for class support staff and or certified, depending on what those things are. And then some of the things that are really more around expectations, for example, in GA, it's adding the language of focus on effective curriculum delivery and be congruent with district long-range plan and annual goal priorities. So that's an example where that would be connected to the principal's goals and how that connects to school and teacher goals. It also would have to do with how we are monitoring and supporting and ensuring we have that effective curriculum delivery. So some of that comes out in expectations and training, some of it through handbook, and some of it just for information. So, but great questions, because we need to be reminded to continually communicate.
Anyone else? The only question I had, Dr. Schuff, is when we had our interim superintendent, I remember hearing something that I wasn't sure about, but if there is staff development that is done during the summer, those individuals who attend, are they being compensated their full compensation rate, or is it just a stipend?
So I'm trying to be careful to the agenda item here, Mr. Guire. And if that's was that part of this policy, one of these changes?
I thought that it was.
Okay, and I'm just kind of scrambling quickly to look. Short answer is they either receive the hourly rate, not their standard daily rate. They receive an hourly rate that's board approved, or they may alternately that maybe something like towards their standard, their certification, and hours towards certification that also helps them in a stipend that way. So those are the two ways that they can get that. And I'll look for the specific policy around that. And then when it comes to the board on an annual basis for the hourly rate. And that's been a budget consideration the last 2 years that teachers actually had a lower priority, probably because of the way they're compensated with Proposition 301 funds. that contribute to that $6,500 is because of the number of hours of professional learning and additional service they provide. And that's how they are qualified for the $6,500 performance compensation. But I'll provide some more information to the board.
Okay, thank you. Item number 6, governing board comments, agenda topics that anyone would like to have added. Okay, upcoming governing board meetings, April 1st, April 13th, and the April 27th. The April 1st is, I believe that one's not set in stone yet, correct? When might we find out about that?
So just left as a potential placeholder for consideration. If our schools are closed through the 10th by the state, then really up to our governing board, if there's any reason or rationale for our board to consider remaining closed longer than a state closure, or do we think that we will be in alignment going forward with what the state is doing? So I have just held a placeholder timeline of April 1st. That's about, approximately 10 days, 10, 12 days out for parents for some consideration. If you want to push, originally that April 1st was suggested because the state had, and we were closed until the 3rd. And the state in this past time, they came out about a week ahead of time, before needing to, close again. So I think it's possible now with us being closed through the 10th, we could do that, say on April 8th. And then another consideration is to move our April 13th to just the week prior, maybe to April 8th, and just have one board meeting on April 8th.
Is everyone okay with that? Of moving the April 1st meeting to April 8th and moving,
So
am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, well, the April 1st is not a standard meeting for us. April
Right.
13th is. April 1st would have been a special meeting, really just for the consideration of whether we were wanting to keep school closed or not, or reopen. We can just hold on that until see what happens if the state comes back with something, say around the 1st of April, saying we think we'll need to be closed. Then maybe there's no need for it. But I would say by April 13th, the Monday, probably at least by April 8th, I would think that our parents need to know if our district intends to stay closed past the 10th of April.
Can we make
Okay.
it on the 6th? Can we make it on the 6th of April? That's a Monday. I think so.
So we could move April 13th to April 6th. I just probably need to check on a couple of things on business contracts to make sure I'm not causing a problem there. Kelly, can you think of anything would be a problem of moving April 13th earlier to April 6th?
Not off the top of my head, no.
We're going to be issuing several contracts for the remaining employees. So I'll have to check with Karina. I think that we can absolutely do it. It gives us basically 1 week from today to get all of those done. So because of the timeline by which we need to post the agenda. And we were planning on, having the 6th or 7th to be able to wrap all that up. So we can certainly give it a shot.
Tell me what to do.
The other board members, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with any changes.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, I think that there's going to be an announcement the week before April 10th. I mean, that seems to be how it's going. So it might be good to meet to get an update on what our plan will be if they come out with another closure.
Kathy?
As long as I have a notice, I'm good.
All right, so I think my final question would be, shall we meet on the 6th just for this, this particular issue and hold to our regular April 13th board meeting? Or would you like for us to do our very best to merge it all into and just do it 1 week earlier?
I'm fine with either. I don't want to necessarily make anyone's job even tougher right now, because I know that as a district, you're already doing a great job with something that's been unforeseen and we've never had before. So I don't want to make life tougher on anyone. So I'm okay with having the two, the 6th and the 13th, but that's just my opinion.
So that means we won't have the one on April 1st?
We would not have an April 1st.
Okay.
But that would be so fun. You all are going back to school tomorrow. April Fools, but I think keeping the one separate that only talks about what's going on, I think probably is best. But again, I can do a longer meeting or both meetings. It doesn't matter.
I think my staff may not be happy about having 2 meetings, but I think it probably would be best to give us more than a week to put everything that's going to be on that agenda together, given everything else we're working on right now. So I think I would recommend, I probably sounded like something else earlier, I would recommend the 13th, and we can plan on meeting the 6th. If something happens in the state that makes the decision for us that goes out farther, then we can consider pulling that meeting if we don't need to. Or if you still want to meet and just kind of catch up and say, how's it going? We can still hold that time as well.
Okay. Suzanne, could you make a motion to adjourn the board meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the board meeting.
And a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Show that we adjourn the board meeting at 8:36 p.m. Thank you, everyone.